Well, this will be a game to watch. Auburn takes on UCF in Atlanta, Georgia, and the AAC has just really dominated this year. They have three top teams, USF, UCF, who was the only undefeated team in college football this year, and Memphis, all of which are going to great bowl games.
Yeah, they had a surprisingly strong year, and especially against other Power 5 conferences and other non-Power 5 conferences, they just completely dominated.
UCF has been killing it on offense this year. That's certainly the armor behind the Knights right now. They are fifth in total offense, averaging 540 yards per game, 340 of those coming from the aerial attack, and then that leaves another 200 for rushing. It's been an impressive season under the quarterback, Mackenzie Milton. And they are also first in scoring, which is great for them. They get on the board early, which is going to be important in this game against a team like Auburn. And they create turnovers. They average about 2 turnovers a game, something they're also going to need against Auburn. So if they can keep that up, that's good for them. The Knights are going to have to put the sword down and learn how to weld a gun. They did this successfully the past 2 weeks against Memphis and USF, and now they're going to be in another shootout situation. So their defense is going to have to be thorough, and it's just going to be an interesting matchup all around.
Yeah, sadly, I don't think this game's going to come down to a shootout, as I know a lot of fans of offense would love to see. I think this is going to come down to defense, and Auburn has the better defense in this matchup. By far, bar none, Auburn has one of the better defenses in the entire country, and that's going to be a theme for the rest of these bowl games as well as this game specifically. They were able to completely shut down Alabama's offense, and they've been able to shut down other elite offenses all year long. And Auburn did the one thing that no one thought that they could do, is they beat the unbeatable. They beat Alabama. They beat Nick Saban. Something that's been keeping coaches up at night, not letting them sleep, giving people nightmares and fits, is how to beat this Alabama team. And it's something that Auburn was finally able to do this year after losing to Alabama last year. And Auburn also has almost the perfect mix on offense, with 226 yards through the air and 228 yards on the ground, which allows them to really keep the defense guessing and not let them key in on any one factor or any one player throughout the game.
One thing we saw that hindered the offense during the Georgia game in particular was the fact that Kerryon Johnson was just coming off of an injury. He definitely was not 100%. We have to give him some props for suffering through and playing out the SEC championship, but he was limited to 44 yards, and that really hurt the Tiger offense in a big game against Georgia.
Yeah, it looks like he has a good chance of being healthy. He's been seen at practice being slightly limited, but hopefully with all the extra time that this bowl game gives them, he'll have enough time to fully recuperate and make a full recovery before this highly touted matchup. In UCF, their offenses not necessarily struggled, but they turned the ball over a lot. They turned it over 4 times against Memphis, and against this opportunistic Auburn team, that's not something that they can have happen. Otherwise, they will be completely destroyed in this game. And they don't have the defense to hold up with all of those turnovers either. Their defense has given up yards after yards on yards, and they've limited some teams to just field goals in the red zone. But against an amazing running team, and hopefully Kerryon Johnson with Auburn, it'll be really tough for this UCF team to limit them to just field goals and force them to not punch it into the end zone every single time down the field. And with new head coach Josh Heupel, it'll be really interesting to see what this UCF team brings out of the gate, whether he is more of an offensive-oriented coach, but what changes he made to their offense, and specifically what changes he made on their defensive side of the ball. You can't make too much, especially not this late in the season, but if he's able to get his team that extra motivation as a new head coach and new message, sometimes that's what your team needs in a huge game like this.
Well, it certainly was with Scott Frost, because if you look at just 2 years ago, UCF was defeated. They won no games that season, and now they're undefeated under Scott Frost, who's only been there for 2 years. So I think losing Frost is definitely going to affect the program, but enough guys are sticking around and know the program, know the offensive components Scott Frost brought, so I think that's going to help them out as they continue this transition. But Mackenzie Milton, he's going to be the guy to watch, not just in this game, but during the next season, because he currently has the record for most passing yards on deep passes. It's been shattered following the performance against Memphis. He now sits at the top with 1,700 yards. and he was crowned the MVP in the AAC championship game and has had 3,800 passing yards this year with an additional 500 rushing yards, responsible for 42 total touchdowns. One thing he does need to be wary of is the picks. He threw a couple questionable ones during the Memphis game, especially during that last minute of regulation. But despite those 3 he had, he's only had 9 on the season, so not too bad. He's been a big part of flipping this program around under Scott Frost.
And someone who's going to be looking to get in his head and get a lot of hits on him all game long is Jeff Holland for Auburn. He's leading the team in sacks with 8.5 sacks. He's also up in the top of the nation with 4 forced fumbles and a fumble recovery. The junior has run rampant over in every every offensive backfield all season long. I expect him to have another huge game against an undersized and frankly underperforming UCF offensive line. I look for him to be causing mayhem for Milton all night long.
Who are you liking in this game?
I think Auburn's going to win pretty easily. They're the bigger team, the bigger program, the coach that's been there before. They don't have the best bowl history, especially not recently. They've lost a lot of games that I think they definitely should have won. But against a UCF team who hasn't really played anyone notable all year, Navy is probably one of their toughest opponents. I think that it's going to be pretty easy for Auburn to take their experience and just run away with it.
When we talk about the college football playoffs, I think Auburn's kind of fueled by the fact that they weren't even really considered for a spot, and they played 2 of the top 4 teams right now. They were very close against Clemson, and they beat Alabama pretty well. And so I think that's going to carry them forward in this game and be the driving force. Well, not the driving force, but some motivation behind the performance we're going to see. They're going to be physical, they're going to be tough, and they're going to be fighting to show that they deserved to be in that top 4. But you also have UCF, who's undefeated, and they want to remain undefeated. So it's going to be an interesting game, but I have to go with Auburn on this game as well.
They did also just play in Atlanta for the SEC championship game, so they have a lot of experience in that stadium.
If you like this week's episode, feel free to check out some of our others. Thanks for watching RedZone to EndZone.